Hello, my name's Liam Bastick from Some Product, and today I'm going to be talking to you about turning a pivot table into calculations. And yet again, it's another 5-minute video. Here I have a data file. It's what we call a flat file because it can all be shown on a two-dimensional rendering or piece of Excel paper, or worksheet, whatever you want to call it. And it's in what we call columnar format, which is the posh way of saying it's in columns. And we've got a total here of 5 columns: date, store, item, amount invoiced, and amount paid. These are fields. So for instance, on the second row, I have some data. This is a record, so that on the 1st of April 2019, I sold from the North Store a TV for a total of $1,366.22, and I've paid so far $1,121.77. So I'm still owed a little bit of money. Maybe I want to aggregate all this up so I can see both by store and by item what the total amounts are invoiced, for instance, or the amount paid, or even the amount owed if I wanted to. We'll just stick with the amount invoiced here. This calls out for what was known as a crosstab query, or in Excel we call a pivot table. It's really old technology. It's very simple to do. You just click anywhere in the grid, you go to the Insert tab, and you click on Pivot Table, or use the highly obvious keyboard shortcut Alt N for November, V for Victor. What could be simpler and more obvious than that? Well, pretty much anything, I guess. What I'm going to do now is go Insert Pivot Table, make sure I actually have the reference in here, and I'm going to go for an existing worksheet location here, let's say of H3, and then we'll just click OK, and we have our pivot table. It's cunningly called Pivot Table 1 here. If you want to change the name, you'll see that whilst we're in this region, you'll have these context-specific tabs. And on this one, you can change the name up here. You can't change it in there. It's quite annoying, but that's how you would do it. So if I were to put the date in the filter, store here, the item there, and the amount invoiced, and summarize it, this field list table gets annoying being in the way, so I'll close it. To bring it back, you just actually click anywhere in the pivot table, and then on the Analyze tab, click Field List. That's how easy it is to bring it back. But I actually have a summary here of by north, east, south, and west, and by my items, I can see all the data. And if I don't like column labels and row labels, I can go to Design and decide I want the report layout tabular, and it says Store an item instead. Notice north, east, south, and west. How have I managed to get it in that order? That's not alphabetical. I used a custom list, but that's a trick for another time. Look here, total sales for North, $6,592.85. Now, all these numbers are hard-coded, which can be a little bit annoying. So you see, if I actually made another sale for a very expensive television, which put my total sales up to $1 million, nothing happens to the pivot table. It's still exactly the same as it was before. You actually have to go through here and go in and go to Analyze and go to Refresh. And if you had more than one, you go refresh all, but with one, you just go refresh, and then it puts it in. Bit frustrating. You might want a formula in here instead, because you might not want the whole pivot table, something that will just actually link to what it is you're trying to aggregate. Is there an easier way to sort of create a pivot table using formulas? And the answer is yes, there is, but not once you've created the pivot table this way. To do that, I have to remove this. Now, I can't just go in here and go into pivot table and click clear. That keeps the pivot table referencing in here. To actually get rid of the whole pivot table, I'll have to undo that, Control Z, and just hit delete instead. That's how you do it. So to bring the pivot table back in, I just repeat the steps as before. So I'm going to go back to Insert, Alt-NV keyboard shortcut brings it in. I'm going to make one subtle change, so I'll still make sure that I go for an existing worksheet, and we'll go back to H3 like we did last time. But I'm going to check on this very final checkbox, add this data to the data model, and click OK. Now, the data model is like a little storage bin for large amounts of data, usually used for another add-in in Excel, Power Pivot. Now, we're not going to cover that here, but it just means you can do a few other wonderful little features, and there's a trick you can employ here. So if again I put in my date, if I put in my store, my item, and my amount invoiced, I notice straight away that the alphabetical order is resumed, which is a bit annoying. But if I want to change these to formulas here, I would actually have to go in here, go to OLAP Tools, and click on Convert to Formulas. OLAP is Online Analytical Processing. It's the only one available here. And watch this magic. How cool's that? Now everything is a formula. So when I change this, let's just say I've had everything received. Then what happens? Nothing! Because this is talking to the actual data model, which still requires me to go to the Data tab, unfortunately, and hit Refresh All to get the data to update. So you can put formulas in here, but there are still some catches anyway, so just watch out for that. That's it for this time. Hope you found it useful. If you did, my name's Liam Bastick. If you didn't, my name's Tim Heng. Thank you.